I have nothing but 110% that Mike's going to bring that title back home at Bound for Glory because that slogan of "whoop that trick" is going to live up to it because Mike, I know, is going to whoop that trick.
Hey Steve, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today. How are you doing generally? How's everything
I'm
going?
doing well, actually. I'm very excited to come on over to India for the first time ever. And we were just talking off camera before, and I was like, the last time I was even close to India was Afghanistan. My time serving over there, so it's obviously a different trip this time around coming to that side of the world. But I'm very excited, and hopefully, I am defending this TNA International Championship here while I'm over there.
Your match hasn't been finalized yet, has it? As far as right now, you're just announced for the show.
Yes, as of right now, that's all I know, even on my end, and that's still word that I haven't gotten passed down to me. But I'm ready for whoever's going to step up to me when I do come over there. Granted, you guys have the home field advantage, and I'm coming into uncharted territory on my end. But I plan to keep doing what I've been doing, and that's defending the TNA National Championship. And now here we are going internationally for the first time.
Indeed, and that's great news to come out to India. Those talent that have been announced for the show, do you have anyone in particular that you hope to face, or any plans in particular for the Indian shows?
No, just because again, like I have had gotten no word. This was kind of sprung on me a couple weeks ago, saying, "Hey, we're in the process of getting a visa and everything together for you to go over to India to defend the international title. You're interested?" I'm like, "Yes." I was like, "I'm the international champion. I want to. I've told you this numerous times that I want to defend this internationally." So for me, it's just coming over there, and it's again whoever steps up. I'm looking forward to the challenge. I'm looking forward to that fan base because it's a new fan base for me to be in front of and to go out and perform in front of, and hopefully walk out of India still the TNA International Champion.
And we're looking forward to it as well to host the TNA International Champion. Mustafa Ali, Great Khali, a couple of the bigger names that have been announced for these shows. What can we expect from a fan's perspective if you were to tell them, hey, this is what you can get those couple of days when you're showing up for the show? How would you present it to the fans?
Well, if you've been following TNA Wrestling on Eurosport, you're going to get exactly what you've been seeing out of Steve Maclin for the past 4 years, and that's me stacking bodies, putting people up in the tree of woe, caught in my crosshairs, and hitting them with a KIA, and I'll be walking out of India. Still TNA International Champion. I'm the one that holds the line. It says it here on the shirt, which you can also get at TNAmerch.com.
And speaking of what you've been doing on Impact recently, you were on commentary recently. I think it was June 20th. Is that something you see yourself doing moving forward? Maybe moving into commentary after your in-ring time is done?
I don't know. Maybe not on that end. Me and Tom Hannafin have a good relationship and talk about it enough, and that's such a challenging aspect of pro wrestling to go out there and be the voice for the story that's going on in the ring. Because visually, you're seeing that as a fan of what's going on with the physicality, but then you have the voice of Tom Hannafin and Matt Raywalt, who are two of the best in the business, and I think one of the better duos going right now, where they go out there and it's just so organic and it flows and they tell such a good story for everybody and they know everybody that's on the roster and they get to know the details that go into those stories that we're trying to tell. And for me, I'm more behind the scenes on the producer side of roles, I think. Maybe later on in my career, helping people put matches together or even being in the truck to call the show and run the show.
Have you done some of that, or is that something you're looking to get into moving forward?
I always kind of keep an eye on the matches. I watch at the monitor a lot when I'm in back behind in go position or gorilla position, people like to call it. At TNA Wrestling, we call it go. I do enjoy that aspect of it, and I love seeing how people create. And that's also one thing for me is if I was to ever go into that role, I want to be fully done on my end of the wrestling world. Because I think as a producer, your job now is to let the talent create, but you give them the direction that they need to do to put out the best product available for what creatively has been given by creative and hire for what they want on a television show that night.
And that's great, but we'll put aside the end of your career for now and talk about what's going on now. Congratulations,
Yes.
by the way. You're approaching 6 months as international champion. You're a double champ too. How has the reign been so far for you? Is it everything you'd hoped for? Is there something you wish you could have done as TNA international champion? You spoke about defending it internationally, and now you're going to be doing that in India. But other than that, any other hits and misses throughout your reign?
The hard fought challengers so far with Eric Young, Mance Warner, friggin' Jake something, Matt Cardona, and then I have Kazarian on my tail right now chasing me, just because he just loves to run his mouth, and eventually it's going to be shut for the king of TNA. But for me, like you just said, though, you already said what I wanted to do, and that's take this title internationally. It's getting TNA Wrestling across the globe, going out there as Steve Maclin to represent TNA Wrestling as the international champion is my goal, is to let the whole world know what TNA Wrestling is about, and for me to go out there and put the company on my back that way. And whether they are trying to do that or they're not, I'm doing that myself, and I take pride in that.
That's amazing. And your last defense of the TNA International Championship was against Damian Chambers, and you pulled double duty that night. How
I
was it?
did.
And I believe you also lost to Myron Reed, unfortunate. But how was that pulling double duty? Is it different from you having to wrestle just once a night or once in the show?
That was a great show at Pro Wrestling Revolver. Damian Chambers is somebody I think people should keep an eye out for. You know, he's a very talented young kid, and he's got a lot of heart, and just obviously couldn't get it done. Uh, but Myron Reed, he had all the obstacles for me to prevail. It took numerous finishers, numerous referees to come running in for me to, and numerous belt shots for me to lose. And it proves up to the name of bulletproof for me. Granted, I'm not dodging bullets, but I'm dodging a lot of things that I have to deal with in a wrestling ring. But just to be out there at Pro Wrestling Revolver and pulling double duty, it's something that was asked of me, and they needed a challenger to step up, and I said, yeah, why not me? I wear Isaiah. I wear Isaiah 6'8" on my sleeve for a reason, and it's one of those testaments that I live up to, of just like, who am I? Send me.
And Myron Reed now is the number one contender for Leon Slater, another TNA champion. They're
Yes.
due to face off at Victory Road. Any expectations for that? Yourself, Myron Reed, having to go through so much to put you down. What do you think of that match?
That is two talents that are so young still, and people haven't really seen what Myron Reed's all about, and people also haven't really seen what Leon Slater's about. Being the youngest TNA X Division champion in history, having that moment with AJ Styles, like this, the sky is the limit for Leon Slater, but it's also the same for Myron. Myron is a very, 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 very talented individual and competitor. He puts everything into it. What he does, he calls himself the young goat, and he walks and carries himself that way. So I'm very much looking forward to that match at Victory Road to see kind of who comes out on top. But I'd say my money's on Leon.
Leon defending the title successfully. And you mentioned it briefly earlier, the moment that Leon Slater had with AJ in the ring at TNA Slammiversary, that was incredible. Just looking, I think we all saw the video of Leon just jumping in excitement inside of the ring. How's the mood backstage? Was it the same level of excitement? How was it having AJ back in TNA?
It was the same level of excitement, just because it's AJ after 11 years, something we never thought was going to happen again, and it was fun to just kind of mingle with him a little bit and talk to him, because I haven't seen him in a few years from since my time in WWE. And it was just good to catch up. And I told him just it was so awesome to just see this moment and see him back in his home where he started, because you never thought it would happen. And that's also the thing in wrestling, is like, you can never say never in pro wrestling. That's one thing I firmly believe in. There's always people coming back where people never thought they would come back to, or debuts, or just those moments people cherish. And that's a moment I think in TNA history that'll kind of live up to it now.
Yeah, that did go down in history. I spoke to Josh Alexander a little while ago, and he labeled AJ Styles as Mr. TNA. Would you share that sentiment?
Well, yeah. When you think of anything with TNA wrestling, AJ's the first name. Then you got Samoa Joe, Abyss, Kurt Angle. Like, it's funny to think, like, you think of Kurt Angle so much from his time in WWE, but like, he's just a staple name as well in TNA. And I know he said in many interviews recently that he's had a better career wrestling that he thought in TNA than he did in WWE, which just blows my mind, because he just had a good career across the board. but that just shows the testament of talent that he was to be able to go to another company and people think that way. But yeah, those are like the people that you think of, or Christopher Daniels, or Frankie Kazarian, Eric Young, like people that are still down. Eddie Edwards now, I think, is one of those names that when you think of TNA wrestling, that's there. Sammy Callahan as well. And it's cool to be a part of. And I think of a Josh Alexander that way as well, being the standard that he was at one point and being the longest reigning TNA World Champion, but then also being a quitter at the end of the day.
And the longest reigning TNA World Champion, you mentioned. Do you have any? Do you could break his record? Because you're 6 months now as the TNA International Champion. He went almost a year as the World Champion. Do you think you could go past a year as International Champion?
I think that's a possibility. So far, I've set the record on my own, and Tom Hannafin lets me know all the time of the days that I'm at because it's a brand new title. And it's awesome to be the first ever in history because that also just cements me in the legacy of TNA history at some point where I'm in the list of Kurt Angle and AJ Styles again I never thought in a million years of my career that I'd be on a list with those two names. And it's just really cool to sit back and think about at the end of the day. But I'm going to try to hold on to this title, defend it wherever I can. And like I said, putting the company on my back and taking this title internationally and just representing TNA wrestling the best that I can and live up to it.
And speaking of representing the legacy of the titles within the company, the TNA World Championship was highlighted, showcased prominently at WrestleMania this year. Joe Hendry walking out with the title, facing Randy Orton. What were your thoughts on that? What was the TNA locker room's reaction to that? Did you guys know beforehand, or did it take you by surprise?
When you've been doing this long enough, you kind of have some ideas or thoughts towards things where they're creatively happening. And obviously, it was a surprise for everyone, too. But it was also just awesome to see the TNA title the world title on WrestleMania. Like, did you ever think that would happen? So it's even for it to be at the Royal Rumble previously as well with Joe. And he did such a good job carrying it and bringing it to the heights that it needed to get the exposure for the company. And here we are on the cusp of a new distribution and TV deal at some point soon. From what Carlos keeps saying, it's happening at some point, which that only helps us. And that's been the good partnership that we've had with WWE so far, where it's that working relationship where we're helping each other. And I love it. And it's so cool to have that moment. I'm happy Joe has that moment in his career. I apologize for the dogs in the background. Someone had to ring the doorbell. They're just protecting us as always. But no, it was an awesome moment, and it's funny again. If there's things that you don't expect to happen, like I said with the AJ coming back to TNA, that's that working relationship and where that works.
Mhm. And speaking of the TNA World Championship, Trick Williams is the TNA World Champion, due to face Mike Santana soon. What is the locker room's stance on this? Are you guys sharing the sentiment that the TNA World title needs to be brought back home? And Mike Santana, a lot of pressure on his shoulders to bring it back.
Mike's had one hell of a story of coming back, and we have our own history where he was the first person he debuted against me when I signed my new extension on my contract with TNA, and he stepped up to the challenge and came home as well. And I have nothing but respect for Mike. We've tagged a few times together. It kind of clicked that way where it worked out. I know he didn't ever wanted to be a tag wrestler again, and neither did I, but it kind of worked, and we kind of laughed about it afterwards. But I have nothing but 110% that Mike's going to bring that title back home at Bound for Glory, because that slogan of "whoop that trick" is going to live up to it, because Mike, I know, is going to whoop that trick.
That's an amazing answer. But Bound for Glory, your predictions for the show itself, and what do you expect from Bound for Glory?
October 12th, Bound for Glory in Lowell, Massachusetts on the TNA Plus app. I'm pumped for it. It's in Lowell. We've been wanting to go to Boston area for a long time. Being in the Northeast, for me, I grew up in New Jersey, so that entire tri-state area, anywhere up in the New England area, it has just always been a great wrestling area and a town to be in. And we set a record at Slammiversary for the biggest gate, and that's our next goal, is to do that at Bound for Glory as well. And then it's going to set on to the next one, which is not probably hard to kill anymore. I think it's still Genesis. I don't know. They haven't announced that yet. So we're setting records. We're building everything's on upward right now getting that new TV deal, working to distribution. It's just taking it one thing after another and wrestling with a chip on our shoulder. And that's how the locker room's always been since I've been there. Is like it's nothing but support for one another to go out there and kill it, have the best show possible, put the best show possible on for the fans, the TNA wrestling fans that we love so much, that give us so much support, that have stuck with us for so damn long, even through the dark times that I've heard about. And now here we are as TNA Wrestling again, and it's just getting bigger. And Bound for Glory is going to be something special.
And speaking of something special, another match that I guess a lot of us didn't expect to happen again. One of the marquee matches at Bound for Glory, the Hardys against Team 3D. Your thoughts on that, and what are you expecting out of the match?
That's just it. It's the Hardys versus Team 3D, and it's almost 25 years later from their infamous tables match at Madison Square Garden at the Royal Rumble. And I remember watching that as a kid. And those are the guys that I looked up to. Like, I loved Rock, I loved Austin, I loved Undertaker, I loved Triple H, and loved Shawn. Like, I loved the singles wrestlers, but tag team wrestling at the time with Edge and Christian, the Hardys, the Dudleys, APA, just New Age Outlaws. There's just so many different teams at that time that just made you fall in love with tag team wrestling and entertained the hell out of you. And with the matches they had, from dumpster matches to table matches, then to all the TLC matches that were made. And for this match to be happening again and to be able to possibly watch that live from the crowd, because I know if I'm wrestling before or after, I'm going to find a way to go sneak out in the crowd and try to watch that live, just because it's like being a big kid again. Or being a little kid again, I should say, but as a big kid, is to go out and watch the Dudleys and Hardys and guys that I've emulated. And I've told Jeff numerous times, like, hey, you used to get me in a ton of trouble for jumping off my garage through tables and off of ladders and like just repeating. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, dude, don't be sorry. I was like, it's why I do what I do. It's the best thing in the world.
And Bound for Glory promises to be amazing. And you touched upon it a little, the history of TNA wrestling and you watching all these tag teams as a kid. What was your first TNA wrestling memory?
I would say it was the X Division. It was AJ and Joe, and it was obviously when WCW ended up going away, and then I just was trying to, like, I was watching WWE at the time, but then I was like, oh, people were kind of saying, oh, there's just TNA Wrestling, and I turned it on, and then there was AJ and Joe, and I'm just like, ooh, what is this? And because I didn't know much about the independent wrestling at that time, I didn't know about Ring of Honor at that time, so it's just this whole new world opened up. And it's similar to like how ECW opened up to me as a teenager too, where like I didn't know what ECW was, and then randomly it came on late one night, and a few of my buddies like, dude, you have to check this out, you have to check out this guy Rob Van Dam. And I'm just like, what is this new world? And that was the same thing that happened when I tuned into TNA. I'm like, oh my God, like this is fresh new faces, fresh new people. Like it's not the old coming to a new company and trying to make it their own. Like it was just something different and something needed at that time. And that's also what TNA's all been the lifeblood of, I feel, in pro wrestling, has been giving you new talent and fresh talent, or new acts that are coming from people that didn't work out somewhere else. And it's just, it was probably one of my favorite memories that I can match. It's like, it's up there with watching my first match of fall in love with wrestling with Bret and Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. Like that's that's my all-time favorite match. And that's where I kind of knew, I'm like, this is what I want to do for a living.
And that was a special match indeed, Bret and Owen at WrestleMania 10. If that was your all-time favorite match overall, what was your all-time favorite match in TNA? A match that includes you and an overall match that doesn't include you.
Match that includes me. Oof. There's a few up there that are special to me. My first match with Trey Miguel at Hard to Kill, when I was with the company, it was for the X Division title, and it was the first time I felt creatively free, where we had Madison Rain as our producer, and Trey and I kind of did this little bit of a story build up into it. And we opened the show, and Tom Hannafin was debuting on commentary, one of my best friends. And there was just so much that went into it. And like, we weren't bothered by the producers or creative. They just said, go have a good match. And we went out and I said, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Yep, you're good. Perfect. And Madison was the best to have at that moment, just because she didn't try to dive into hands-on. She gave us a few tips here or there, like kind of different notes to do. And we just went out and executed. And that's one of my favorite matches, especially with Trey, who's, I think, very phenomenal talent as well. But I would say for TNA Wrestling as a fan, Kurt and Joe. Kurt and Joe is another one for the world title. Just those two styles together. I love Joe's bursts of how, and I try to emulate some of the things that he does sometimes. And then just Kurt's intensity, just those two styles clashing together. No pun intended with styles, but they're in there. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Awesome. We've been through a lot. I think finally, my final question for you is the match you've got coming up next. Frankie Kazarian, TNA legend in his own right. The rivalry so far has told quite a story between you two. You cut a fiery promo on the last show. And how's the rivalry been so far for you working with Frankie? And you mentioned earlier that you're going to be shutting him up at Bound for Glory. What do you expect from the match itself?
Well, at Victory Road, I'll be shutting Frankie Kazarian up in Edmonton. So I'm looking forward to that one, just because Frankie's been kind of just running his mouth, and I know he likes to walk around as a self-proclaimed king of TNA, and that's fine. And like I said, at the end of the day, once I'm done, I'm going to be the same old Jarhead, and he's going to be crowned King Nothing. That's how I look at it. And Frankie loves to just dig and pick at people, and he's a scumbag. And he's the scumbag everybody loves to hate, and it's fun to see for Frankie, especially with his Immersed episode that just came out recently. You get a little bit of the entertainment out of him, but at the same time, he's all in it for himself, and he's very selfish about it. And I get it. Maybe that's what happens when you've been doing it so long, and it just becomes about self. But for me, it's going out there, it's putting on the best match possible, defending my title, and walking out, and I plan to do that at Victory Road.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Steve. And best luck at Victory Road and the Indian shows coming up.